Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
And can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, a very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's session on business continuity and crisis management. My name is Shantini Paul. I will be presenting this topic today. A little background about myself. I'm actually based in Malaysia. I'm a risk management specialist. I'm a certificate member of the Institute of Risk Management UK, and I do deliver their programs for the Southeast Asia region. I also do a little bit of consulting for smaller companies in the areas of risk management and business continuity. Very much in Malaysia at the moment because in the areas of consultancy. But in the areas of risk management training, yes, I have done for participants in the, Indonesia before this, besides Malaysia. So I'm glad that today we have participants from Cambodia. I'm not sure, are you from any other regions from Southeast Asia? No matter from where you are, you're all welcome to today's session. So as I go through today's session, if you have any questions, please keep it coming in the chat, all right? I will try to take the questions along the way if possible. Otherwise, I will look at it at the end of the session. Now, today we only have an hour, so much so that I would like to share a lot of things with all of you. Because of the time constraint, I will just have some limitations there. So anyway, for today, I would just like to share a few things here. Firstly, about business continuity and why do we need business continuity? It's because that we face disruptions. And when disruptions happen, it impacts our business. So there is a need for us to consider business continuity for this apparent reason. And then you might be asking, all right, I want to implement business continuity. How do I go about it, right? You may be a small company or a big company or a large corporate, right? It's best for you to follow a framework or a standard. And what I would recommend is to follow the Business Continuity Management Standard, ISO 22301, which was last revised in 2019. It is quite easy. And I would say it's very transparent as well. And the next agenda I would like to share is a little bit on two aspects of crisis management. Usually, my full day workshop on business continuity crisis management, most of my participants tend to enjoy the crisis management part a lot, that they will say, can we extend it to one extra day, you know, even beyond the 2-day session? I guess it's because we have some interesting case studies for the crisis management topic, okay? So let's move on now. Okay, I would like you all to take this poll, okay? Maradi, shall I stop sharing my screen, or you can still show the poll on top of my screen?
I can show the poll.
Okay.
So we're gonna do it now, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Before that, can you explain them a little bit before we start launch the poll?
Yes. So Maradi, my training assistant, will be launching the poll. So read about it, and you can choose multiple options, right? So please select the disruption for which your business has any backup plans that you can think of, or that you've heard in your organization that you all have a plan. Okay, so you can choose multiple answers there.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will end poll now.
You want to give them another minute? So far, at least 70% to participate.
Okay, so give me 1 minute more, please, everyone.
Yes, please participate. I mean, even if you're not aware of any operation plan, maybe you can choose the last option. Okay, I think we can end it now. Okay, as we can see here, looks like, well, most of your organization have some form of emergency or backup plans. And the highest I can see is for the pandemic. Yeah, for the pandemic, that is 65%, followed by infrastructure failure such as power, energy, and so forth. Then there's fire and natural disasters. Okay, cyber attack as well. And there are also a small group whereby you do not have any backup plans, and some of you are not aware of any emergency operations, yeah, even if your organization have. All right, thanks for taking part in the poll. Maradi, you can stop sharing now. So does the results show in a different form of, or is this the only one? This is the one.
Do you still see it?
This is the result, right?
Yes.
Yes, I've just shared with them. Yep. Okay, you can.
Because I stopped share to them already, so you still see it?
Yes, I can still see. Maybe I shall close it at my side. Oh, then it's okay.
Yes.
I close it at my side. Yeah, okay. So pandemic, yeah, it looks like when you took the poll, most of your backup plans are for the pandemic. And of course, we all have been badly affected by the COVID pandemic since last year. So I am not sure whether the backup plan was done just recently, or these plans have already been considered even long ago, yeah, before we even anticipated to go through any pandemic. All right, thank you for taking part in the poll. Okay, now, if you were to travel through a rough terrain to get to the other side, do you think the vehicle that you have modified, this vehicle here, all right, and prepared for the journey will help you to accomplish your mission? If you were to travel through a rough terrain, okay, rough terrain means rough roads, yeah, to get to the other side, do you think this vehicle here, which you have modified and prepared for the journey, will help you to accomplish your mission? Are you well prepared for a rough journey? What do you think? Please share in the chat. Are you well prepared for a rough journey with this vehicle? You have modified it. Please share in the chat, yeah? What do you think about it? Okay, most of you are saying yes. Yes, how about the others? What do you think? You're ready for a rough journey with this vehicle? Okay, Cool shares that yes, we are prepared to continue to fine tune as it is not a smooth trip. Yep, I agree with you. Dara Kong says sometimes yes and sometimes no. Right? Quite a number of you say yes, you're prepared with this vehicle, yeah? Yeah, that's good. Okay, keep the answers coming, all right? Now, you're going on a rough journey, okay? The roads are uneven. Yes, you have modified this vehicle. It's good. You see the tires, you've got this special big tires, and there seem to be a spring here. Perhaps, you know, when you go to certain terrains, it can go up and down. The spring can uplift this part of the vehicle higher. All right. Now, those parts are good. I will say we are well prepared. But what happened if one of your tires get damaged? Did you happen to notice the spare tire? Did you happen to notice the spare tire? The size of the spare tire. Did you overlook it? Yeah, it's smaller. So in the event anything happens during the journey to one of the tire, you are actually stuck. That means you're not well prepared for a rough journey. You don't have a backup plan. Yes, all right. So this is what I would say. When you prepare a business continuity, prepare it for business sustainability, not for audit purpose. Now, there are organizations who do a business continuity just because of compliance by required by their trade associations or by the by the organization and so forth, but not really considering the real sustainability or continuity of the business. All right. So what it means is when you're preparing a business continuity, make sure you consider all the aspects. If anything fails, your backup is equally good. Okay. So that is what I wanted to share, this picture. Now let's move on. So what is business continuity management? Now, basically, business continuity is a corporate capability. When you have a business continuity management or a business continuity plan in place in your organization, it ensures that in the event of any disruption, your daily business activities are not disrupted in terms of any aspects, from resources to even the key personnel and so forth, right? So Business Continuity Institute actually gives this definition. Business continuity management is a holistic management process that identifies potential impacts that threaten an organization. And then it provides a framework for you to identify what you can do. What are the backup plans that you can come up with to safeguard the interests of the organization, the key stakeholders, your brand, yeah, and your value creating activities. So that is the comprehensive definition of business continuity management. And this is by the Business Continuity Institute. Now, we were talking about disruption, right? Why we are having why do we need to come up with a business continuity plan? It's because we are fearful of unexpected interruptions or disruptions. Let's look at some recent incidences that have taken place in the Southeast Asia region. Yeah. In February 2021, there was an earthquake in Japan. Yeah, I'm sure you would have you would have seen in the news or read in the newspapers. Okay. Now, look at the picture here. Now, this is a business operator. Look at the damages. Yeah, these bottles of liquors broken, damages on the road. Yeah. So, just looking at this one itself, this earthquake, yeah, has resulted in so much damages of goods. At the same time, this individual cannot run his business probably for a few days. He can't get back to business because he has to clear up, right? So there's financial losses, okay? There are financial losses, and at the same time, he can't open up for business, so it's difficult to do new businesses, okay? So these are some devastating impact of some disruptions, okay? Now, let's look at another one. In March 2021, there was a massive fire at an Indonesian oil refinery. Okay. And this oil company belongs to Pertamina, one of a popular oil company. So with this incident, how was this company impacted? You see, the refinery, they have specialist equipments. So quite a number of their specialist equipments must have been damaged with this fire. On top of that, so, financial losses of equipment, and they are not able to access the refinery because of the total damage. And then on top of that, look at here, this news, nearly 1,000 locals were evacuated. These people were staying in the surrounding areas. So this has resulted in a third-party liability. So besides, as a company, incurring losses, financial losses, not being able to operate your daily activities as it is, here you are also going to face third-party liabilities. There will be financial consequences to compensate for loss of lives and livelihoods and damages to properties of third parties who are living in the surrounding area, because they are affected because of the disruption that has happened at your workplace, yeah, your organization. So this is another impact. Now, next, this was a news that I came across too. Happened sometime in May here, as per this news here. Powerful storms batter Cambodia. As most of you are in Cambodia, I'm sure you would perhaps experience this situation for a while. Okay, just take a look here. With these water levels, if these shops were keeping their products and their stocks down, yeah, on the ground, can you imagine the damage that the water have done? Yeah, the losses, and the businesses are unable to open for a day or two until they clear up. Yeah, so business is not as usual, right? And on top of that, this storm reminded me, I think 2 years ago in Malaysia, we had a very bad storm and flood incident in our northern states. And what happened was we used to get these transportations of raw materials coming in from north to the city center and south for the manufacturing facilities. And because of the flood and damages on the road, the transportation system was halted. And because of this, there was disruption in the supply chain. Yeah, all the raw materials, including even vegetables and all the perishable items, were not being able to deliver from the northern states to the southern states. So this was a devastating impact as well. Now, in July 2021, there was news about cyber attacks being on an increasing trend, right, over the last 6 months. And with more and more organizations and companies embracing the digitalization, this is you are bound to see more of this happening in the near future. And here, the impact will be loss of data to your competitors. And when such a thing happens, how are you going to gain your clients' trust or your customers' trust? And another incident here that I would like to share is on March 2021. This was the Suez Canal crisis. I'm sure quite a number of you would have seen in the news. A huge container ship got wedged in the Suez Canal. So it got stuck this way, and practically it blocked the traffic of all the other container ships. There were close to 300 over container ships that were stuck behind. So what this has resulted is, because the Suez Canal actually provides a shortcut for container ships to move from Europe to Asia. So with this block, what happened was quite a number of the container ships could not deliver the products, the raw materials, to the countries in Asia. Even Singapore was commenting that some of their manufacturers could not have to slow down on their processing because of certain items, like they didn't receive the chips because of this incident. So these are some of the impacts that can be caused. Of course, you will ask that, well, wasn't there an alternative route when this thing happened? There is actually, but unfortunately, the alternative route takes about 8 to 10 days longer, depending on the capacity and the speed of the ships. And not forgetting, I mean, there are actually various kind of disruptions, I will say. And I think this was a very devastating one, COVID-19. It started somewhere in end of 2019. The outbreak was first spotted in Wuhan, China. Right. Now, a lot of things came with this. And I must say that we are not over with this disruption yet. I'm sure most of you would agree with me. We are still going through this disruption at the moment globally. And one of the worrying factor is we have the vaccination, but there's also a concern whether the vaccination will work for the newer variants that are coming out from this COVID-19. There seem to be mutations of the virus. And on top of that, another concern for this virus is when would it end? For example, the examples that I've showed you earlier, let's say the fire, right? It's a one-off incident. The fire have taken place and then it's over. So now you do your planning. Okay, now let's start plan how to get back to business. But comparatively to this COVID now, how are you going to plan? It has actually impacted us in many ways, impacted our business. But how are we going to plan when you don't know when it's going to end? So these are some things that we should be looking into. Okay. All right. So what are some of the consequences to your business due to the COVID-19 pandemic? I would like to hear from you. I know we all have been going through this. We all have been going through this, and there is still COVID pandemic in our country, wherever you are, because it's I would say it's a globalized event, right? So share with me, how has your business been impacted due to this COVID since the last year? I would say now it's about 1.5 years we are going through this. Please share in the chat box. I would like to hear from you. Okay, Tan Rata says stress, struggling with working routine, shifted, loss of income. Yes. What about the others? Think about it. Share with me. Lack of staffs to support business operation. Stress, yeah. Loss of income, staff had to be released. Okay. Oh, that is sad when you have to release your staffs. Okay, limitation of face-to-face sales activities. Yeah, kids learning from home. They miss their friends, right? We have a bad, huge rise in demand for our product as people need soap during the pandemic. There has been challenges finding raw materials and more staff to meet the demand. Exactly. Projects delayed, shift working, home office, short labor shortage, salary not increasing but decreasing. Yes, a lot of people had to take pay cuts. Yep. Downsizing of companies. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, please continue typing in the chat, yeah, whoever want to share. So what is actually happening in your organization due to the COVID-19 pandemic? And for those of you who have shared here, I must say, it's the same thing. Even in Malaysia, we are feeling stress. There's increasing levels of unemployment. Companies are closing down because due to the lockdowns, they're not able to open up for business, right? And salary cuts, salary cuts to while waiting for the pandemic to be over. Stress, and then stress also because you're working from home, and there's a lot of complaint that when you work from home, there is very difficult because of lack of resources. Some of them have internet or Wi-Fi connection problems, and you can't access to a lot of things. And then initially, when China, they went into full lockdown because I think for countries in the Southeast Asia region, we do depend on China to supply a lot of raw materials, input for our products that we manufacture. So when China went into the lockdown initially, a lot of companies, even in Malaysia, were impacted. They couldn't carry on with their manufacturing. Even the automotive industry was affected because they couldn't get the spare parts and so forth. Yeah, sales drop, new working environment, new norms to live, not adjustable yet. Closed business, yes, a lot. Mental stress, yeah. Agreed with all you said. Trust me, it's not only you all are going through this. Even in Malaysia, we're going through the same thing. So let me share some as well. So some of it are like mental, emotional stress. Unemployment is on an increasing trend here because of the lockdown, business not operating. People, when they lose job, they are not able to spend. They got no money to spend. So definitely it's a chain reaction. It pulls the business down. Then there's also underemployment. And this is because an example of underemployment is like people in the profession. Okay, let's say the tourism industry was quite badly hit. So I do know like an Air Asia pilot who is just doing Grab now, he's riding a Grab motorbike to deliver food. So that is called underemployment. He's doing something that is beyond his, what you call, expertise. That's underemployment. We have supply chain disruption, which I explained to you in the example of China. We also had changing business models. So what happened was, if sales, usually, customer walk into your premises to buy things, and now because of the lockdown due to the pandemic, premises are closed. So some of them decided we must still sell. So they moved to the e-commerce platforms. So even I think some popular names like Zara, L'Oreal, they've all moved to e-commerce platforms for their sales. Okay. And what we could also see was acceleration of digital technologies usage since last year, just because of the pandemic. So in a way, the pandemic was quite devastating because there's a lot of negative impact, I will say. We all are suffering a lot of losses and so forth. But there are also one or two good points to it, especially in the areas of the changing business model and the utilization of the digital technologies, which actually has made business to become cheaper and more efficient. Yeah, you can actually cut down the middle person. In fact, for you to know, I used to conduct face-to-face training as well, but when there was this lockdown and our government said no face-to-face or meetings to be done and so forth, I was at a loss initially. I didn't know what to do. Then slowly people in my industry started moving on to online training. Now, while we as trainers, right, we can try to learn how to deliver via online. But our challenge was our clients or our participants were not ready. They were not that receptive initially. So it took some time. They took a lot of trials and errors. But since August last year till today, all my trainings have actually moved online. And if you ask me, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah. It's more cost efficient to my client because they don't have to, book a hotel. They don't have to provide meals. They don't have to pay for the participants' transportations and so forth. Yeah. So for every industry, I mean, this is just training, but in your industry as well, there's some things that you can do. I think one of you commented about, sales also have dropped. Of course, because you can't open your shop, your business. But perhaps what you can also do is consider whether there's other ways that you can sell. Okay. So these are some of the impacts that we go through because of disruptions, right? Now let's move on. Thanks for sharing some of the experiences in your country. All right. Now, we looked at the natural disasters like earthquake, flood, typhoons. We also looked at some disasters like fire, and, the Suez Canal, whereby the container ship got wedged between in the water, right? So I just want to ask you a question. Do all disruption need to be disasters? Think about it. Do all disruption need to be disasters, including the COVID pandemic? What do you think? Yes? No? Or you have anything you would like to add on top of that? Do all disruption need to be disasters? Please share in the chat box. No? Okay, quite a number of you saying no, not every disruption. Yeah, keep it coming about what you think. Yeah, quite a number of you are saying no, and I would personally say no too, in my opinion. Now, let me share. The Industrial Revolution, we have come a long way. And now we are at somewhere here, the IR 4.0, in the era of digitalization. Now, this is also a disruption, okay? But it is not a disaster. Why I'm saying is, when the digitization is coming in, it is actually changing the way we do things, right? So we should take note. Things like pandemic, fire, flood, you wait for them to happen before you do something. But what about preparing in advance when you know something is coming? Yeah, in the areas of in ideas like digitization. Okay, let me give you an example. Have you heard about this company, Kodak? Now, in the earlier years, Kodak was a very well-known digital photographic, not digital, sorry, a film, yeah, photographic film manufacturer. They were very popular at one point of time. They even came up with their cameras later, right? And it was their own engineers and research team who came up with the idea of a digital camera, and they presented it to their board, okay? But at that point of time, digitalization was something that was not heard of. So when they presented to their board, the board said that, oh, we feel that it's going to be a long time to come before people start embracing or adapting to this. So let's forget about it and let's focus on what we are doing now. So they totally ignored that idea. But what happened in the next 2-3 years, some competitors actually caught up, came up with the same idea, and they took off. I mean, they took over the market share of even Kodak's customers. So you know that Kodak today is a bankrupt company, right? So this is one of the reasons. When you see that something is forthcoming, yeah, you should also prepare for that, not just for disasters. And it's not just about digitalization, but also about changing trends. Changing trends in your area of business. It all depends what business you are. You need to analyze it well, okay? Let me see some of the chats. Some are turned to opportunity and some companies see it as opportunities. Yeah, exactly, yeah, the disruptions. So in a time of disruption, it can be an opportunity. Just like I mentioned just now, for me, in the training area, because of the disruption of COVID pandemic, we're not able to do face-to-face, but I took it as another opportunity to go online training. So, and there were a lot of businesses as well. They moved their business to e-commerce. Yeah. All right, let's move on. So some of the impacts of disruption, I will just share again. These are only some, yeah. Actually, there are many if you really analyze. Loss of lives, yeah, like due to fire or natural disasters, livelihoods. You know, you lose your income, you lose your homes. Loss of key suppliers and customers. This is especially when, in the case of when during the pandemic there were lockdowns. You know, manufacturers were not able to supply the main resources to other manufacturers who use it as inputs and so forth. Loss of or damage of specialized equipments, something like that's used in the refineries. Disruption in supply chain. For example, look at this one article that I saw. Toyota to halt production at 2 plants due to chip shortage. So Toyota could not actually complete their production of cars because they were facing shortage of some parts. Yeah? And then financial disasters, definitely, because one, as a business, you are impacted due to damages, let's say due to some of the disruption that resulted in damages. And then there are also third-party impact, like in the case of fire, whereby it's also affecting the people surrounding in the nearby area. You know, they can sue you actually. So you are responsible for third-party liability. And so that is under third-party impact as well. Negative company and brand reputation. So when, let's say, with these disruptions, right, if you don't get back quickly, yeah, to your work, or business is not back to normalcy as soon as possible, it would really affect the company as well as the brand. So what will happen here is there will be loss of market share. People will start moving, your customers will start moving to an alternative, yeah, to your competitor. And non-resiliency of business. So the sustainability of the business is questionable. Some other articles here that I have is like most UK restaurants and pubs to go bankrupt. This was due to the lockdown, prolonged lockdown. I'm sure you've seen similar news in your country as well. Air Asia exposed larger loss as revenue hit by virus curve, definitely, because the tourism industry, travel and tourism industry is one of the worst hit at the moment due to the pandemic. And our hotels in Malaysia also have been quite badly hit. What they have done, if you want to know, is they have actually linked up with the government to offer services as quarantine centers for those who were COVID positive, and also for those who were coming back from overseas. Okay, so we found out that every day there will be some incident, some disruption taking place somewhere, or in any company, or even there's a possibility in our own company. So considering this in mind, that we can be impacted in any way, and we would like to ensure that our business continues as normal as possible. So to minimize the disruption, we should come up with a business continuity plan. And to come up with a plan, you will ask, hey, how do I do it? Mine is only a small company. Do I still do it? Yes, you still can. And I would highly actually recommend you to follow this framework on ISO 22301 2019. This ISO is one of the most simplest one I think I would have gone through. Usually the documents are quite technical, like the ISO 31000 on risk management. But the business continuity ISO seems to be very simple and straightforward. What it explains is basically is a framework to plan, establish, implement, operate, monitor, and to maintain and continually improve a business continuity management system. So it actually guides you. It provides a guideline on how you can do this. And it helps to put in place a robust, effective, and fit for purpose business continuity management system. So when you do this, you're not just following the framework blindly, but you are aligning it, fit for purpose to your business. You have to adjust it accordingly to your business need. And the framework is applicable to any size or type of organization, or the nature of organization. That's why I mentioned to you, you don't have to be a big organization to follow this framework, to adapt. Okay, now in ISO 22301, there are actually 10 clauses. I'm not going to go through all this now, okay? In my 2-day workshop, yes, we look into some of the other important clauses as well. But for today's discussion, I'm just going to point at this, number 8, which I've circled here, all right? The clause on operation. So basically the guideline on the operation brings you to a model, to a business continuity model, which we are going to look in our next slide, okay? And it's this. So what it means is how can you now do a business continuity plan? How can you do it if you want to implement it, right? So this is called a PDCA, a model or cycle as per the ISO standard. It's derived from the previous slide under the operations. So what it shares is 4 categories here, 4 cycles. You start with planning, doing, checking, and acting. Okay, so what actually you do first? Plan. You have to determine your BCM strategies, the business continuity management strategies. And how do you do it? You actually consider the scope. Okay, what is the scope that you want to identify? What is the risk appetite of your organization? Size and complexity of your organization? And what are the key activities that you do? So based on that, you come up with a strategy. Then next, you move on to develop and implement the response and recovery procedures. And how do you do that? First of all, you must identify your key operational activities, right? Once you have identified that, you prepare a business impact analysis, BIA, to find out that which critical activity in the event of a disruption needs to be recovered first, yeah, because of the impact, which is going to give a more devastating impact. You may have more than one critical activity, but in the event of an disruption, which is going to give you a more severe impact, yeah. So you need to identify with the BIA, business impact analysis, as well as a risk assessment, okay? Then you'll come up with a response or ideas plan. You come up with a plan, what you're going to do. Okay? So next, you're going to do the checking, right? That is basically exercise and review. Now, checking means you've come up with a plan. You need to test it out. You can do via simulation, walkthroughs, that means a real life practice, so forth, or tabletop, which is a mere discussion of the plan when incidences happen. And what's more important, you have to ensure that it works. Whatever plan that you come up with or a response strategy, you have to ensure that it works. And finally, you need to continuously improve to meet the organization's requirement. Bear in mind that nothing stays the same. Nothing stays the same. Things around you can change. Regulations, like the technology advancement. So you need to review your plans regularly. For example, right, you could have had some plans 2 years earlier for a disruption, but the disruption never took place. Are you just going to leave it? Yeah. Are you just going to leave it? But then in year 3 or year 4, when the disruption takes place, you realize that a lot of things have changed. So it is not workable. So you need to continuously improve. Now, there was one question about this in one of the sessions. A participant asked how frequent that we should review our plan. Ideally, I will say 1 year. Ideally, on a yearly basis. Okay. All right, so now we are moving to crisis management. I will move to this first. Then at the end, I will ask you all about, I'll come to questions even regarding business continuity. Now, crisis management, you might ask that, is it similar to business continuity? A lot of people have asked me this question. So crisis management at times overlap business continuity, but more on the execution part, not on the preparation part. Because business continuity, you have to identify the risks that the company or the disruption that your organization might face, and you need to come up with a plan in the event you're impacted, what you're going to do, right? But crisis management follows on from that. That means when the event takes place, all right, you go into action. Yeah, you get down into action and say, okay, now let's manage this crisis. Yeah, until the recovery stage. Sometimes crisis management overlaps with business continuity. Sometimes it's not, and I will tell you why. Okay, first of all, what is crisis management? It's the process by which an organization deals with the disruptive and unexpected events. Events such as the disasters or disruptions that I've explained to you earlier, there could be more, all right? Like the examples here, financial crisis, scandals, explosions, right? Now, when you're preparing a business continuity, right, you might only look at much more bigger sort of like disruptions that might impact you, like the natural disasters and so forth. You might not think about an explosion or a scandal, an internal scandal, or some like a bomb threat and so forth. You wouldn't have thought about it. So when these things happen, you wouldn't have a plan under business continuity. So let's say a bomb threat, right, in your organization. So you wouldn't have a plan under business continuity. But that is where crisis management does not overlap with business continuity. You start all over again under crisis management. How to manage this incident now? What are the steps? I will be sharing with you shortly. So a crisis is actually an unexpected and detrimental situation, which can actually impact your core values and activities, and as well as damage the reputation of your organization and disrupt your operations. Now, there are two, before I move to the aspects of crisis management, what is important is when a crisis takes place, you would like to respond quickly, efficiently, and effectively in a premeditated way. Premeditated means in a planned way, so that so that the effectiveness will be there. If you don't plan last minute, it is going to be very messy. Yeah. And why we have to do this is because there are three main things. You want to minimize losses, whether it's financial losses or losses of lives or whatever. You want your business to get back to normalcy as quick as possible. And most importantly, you also want to manage your investors and shareholders' confidence. And bear in mind, when I mention, I wouldn't say shareholders, investors and stakeholders. When I mention stakeholders, don't forget your employees are one of your biggest stakeholders that have to be managed as well. Because during that time, they can get panicky, they can break down, they can feel very lost. So they need to be managed as well. Okay. So there are two aspects to crisis management. The first aspect is managing the crisis. So there are 5 things that you need to do. So this is, remember when I mentioned to you, provided that you have not planned and prepare under your business continuity, then you do the planning and preparation here. If you have done under business continuity, then we just carry on with the execution plan, which is the next response and recovery under crisis management. So under planning, you need to identify the crisis and the impact. How would it impact the organization? Who would be worst impacted and so forth. Then you prepare the resources, the procedures, and the teams. And then you see how else you can prevent this by having a plan, maybe establish some notification or monitoring systems. Right? Then during response, you need to allow assess. That means you should go in to assess the plans, the resources to manage the incident. And lastly, you need to engage in the recovery plan. Yeah? So that is the critical aspects of managing the crisis. So there are 2 aspects. The second aspect in crisis management is managing the communication. Okay, that is how do you manage the communication to who are your shareholders or your stakeholders? Who do you speak to, and who also should be the spokesperson? And how are you going to do it? Are you going to just give them an email? Are you going to face the media and give a media briefing? Is it going to be, let's say, over the phone? How? All right. Town hall for your employees, because different stakeholders might need different mode of communication. That's what we will look at. And then what are you going to tell them? So the best thing will be to tell them the truth and to tell them the progress of the way or what you have done so far to manage the crisis. Yeah, the actions taken to manage the crisis. And last is when would be the right time to actually talk to the various people involved in the crisis or impacted by the crisis. Now, I put some pictures here. So basically, just to explain to you, in my 2-day workshop, we have a case study. So far, the case study that we have done, one is on Air Asia and Malaysian Airlines, the crisis. Malaysian Airlines is MH370, the popular one that you have heard, I think, because it was actually a very badly managed crisis. And we compare it to the Air Asia, which crashed after taking off, I think, from Singapore, and it crashed somewhere in Indonesia. How we are looking at more on how the crisis was managed. And then there's also this maple leaf. We look at some of the best practices. Maple leaf is actually a food manufacturer. And when they had an outbreak of, I think, food poisoning of their food, how they actually handle the crisis. So we do this case study as well and take some of their what you call best practices from here. Yeah. Okay. Now, I did mention to you, right? When we are preparing to manage crisis, one of the things that we have to prepare is a team. So who do you think should be part of a crisis management team? Now, I would like you to use the annotate. Can you find the annotate on the top of your screen? And then can you just tick who, can you just select who do you think are the people that should be part of the crisis management team? Do you all understand? Okay, I did share that during the preparation for managing crisis, one of the resources that we have to prepare is also a crisis management team. So this team shouldn't be from outside, actually. They should be from inside your organization. So based on the list that I have prepared here, who do you think should be in the team? Can you look for the annotate key on your screen, and then you can actually tick who you would select to be on the crisis management team?
Everyone, if you can't find annotate, you can go to the view option. Yeah, so you can see the word annotate. So you can click on that and can use to select which one that you think should be a part of your crisis management team.
Okay, think about it and keep it coming, all right? So definitely, if you ask me, I would say that CEO have to be on the team because he has to know what is going on and he has to lead the way as well. The PR, public relations rep, this person has to be who has to communicate to the various stakeholders regarding the crisis, right? So he has to be on the team as well. Managers, general managers of key departments, definitely, because they need to know what is happening in their department and whether the crisis or whatever impacts their department. And if it is, they need to know what are the recovery plans for their department. Safety and security officers, well, it depends, but it's good to have them to monitor or keep the situation under control. Company lawyers, if you're involved in third-party litigation, that means due to whatever event that have impacted your company and it has actually impacted the third party, people outside your company or organization as well, then you need to have the lawyers to do the advising as well as to do all the necessary legal actions. technical experts, yeah, especially if you are a manufacturing concerns and you need to have people like this, and key operational employees. Yes, employees need to be prepared as well because they know the job very well. So when we have come up with a plan and we are planning for in the event anything happens, I think they should know what they should do as well. So you need to have, you can't have all the employees on the board, but you can have two or three as a rep, yeah, of other employees as well. Okay, so practically all of them, but it also depends on your organization. The bigger the organization structure, maybe the more people you have. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking part in this simple activity. All right. Questions? I have one question here from Katnika in the chats, right? He said that, can you share me what are the key difference between business continuity plan and crisis management plan? Now, actually, to say the key difference, they can overlap. Like I said, business continuity plan, you're identifying a disruption that might take place and you do all the planning, including the recovery procedures. You come up with a plan, but not the execution. So because you only execute when something happens. So let's say something has happened now, you want to execute, let's say a fire incident. So you bring the crisis team in to do the execution, but you can show them, in fact, they should be part of your team when you're doing the business continuity plan. Okay, so they will know, okay, what do we do from here? It's more on the execution part. But crisis management team can also work independently without the business continuity plan. Why? Because under business continuity, you are probably not going to look at, remember I told you, you need to do the business impact analysis and risk assessment. Why? Because you want to identify which disaster or disruption that when it affects, impact your key business activities mostly. You're going to have an assessment on that, but you're not going to make assessment. So after doing that, you're going to come up with a plan for that, right? But you're not going to consider smaller things like, oh, okay, a bomb threat or likely small explosion or scandals, you know, and so forth, or fraud and all those things. So these are the things that when happens suddenly, the crisis management team themselves have to come up with the 5 stages. They have to plan, they have to prepare, and they have to do everything. All right. So these are those disruptions that are not, I will say, assessed earlier under business continuity. So that is the difference. So there is a part whereby they overlap actually. You can't say they're totally different, but there is a part they don't overlap. Right? So I would like to take questions now. I know we are 10 minutes late, yeah, 10 minutes. You're welcome, Katnika. Any questions? Okay, yes. So it means BCM covers crisis management? Yes, yes. Not wholly though, because like I said, there are some small crises that BCM might not cover, right? So crisis management have to do it. You have to do it under crisis management.
Bài đọc cô ơi cô.
If you have any question, please drop it in the chat box. Okay, Monorom says it means BCM covers crisis management, but crisis does not cover BCM. Again, like I said, it overlaps. You cannot say that crisis is not covered. It doesn't cover BCM, but it is partly under BCM at the execution part. So crisis means when the disaster has taken place, you spring into action to manage the crisis. Under business continuity, you only identify and plan that in the event something happens, this is what you're going to do. But when things happen, crisis steps into it and takes on from there. Okay, so that is how they are linked, overlap. But at the same time, BCM may not cover certain disruptions unexpectedly. Suddenly something happens. Let's say you never thought about your building going to collapse, your organization, the office, right? So when that happens, there's no time to do BCM, because to do a BCM, it takes time, right? You have to do the BIA, you have to assess the risk and so forth. So the crisis team just goes in very quickly, come up with a quick plan. Now, just to manage the crisis. Quickly, let's clear up, save the people, whatever. So that is the difference. Sophia shares, how can we turn the crisis to be an opportunity? Well, Sophia, that all depends on the crisis. All right. So assuming, but most of the time we learn from a crisis. All right. We learn from a crisis. So for example, like with the pandemic now, right? We don't know when it's going to end. So do you know when you're going to go back to office? Or even as a boss, do you know when you should ask your employees to come back? You're not sure, right? Worst move, we're talking about newer variants, the more dangerous one like Delta and Lambda, and that the vaccinations may not be receptive to these variants, right? So what can we do? So we take it as an opportunity to try something different rather than waiting for the pandemic to end. Which part of, let's say, our business we can automate? Then maybe we come with hybrid working models whereby not all employees come to the office the same day, right? If they can work from a remote area, they work from a remote area. Yeah. So work out something. So there are times that crisis can be turned into opportunity. Plus, assuming, right, your building was very old and maybe you didn't have all the safety features. So once you had a fire outbreak, then when you come up with a new one, you plan it properly, well in advance that, okay, you want this, you want to have this and that to protect in the future. So then it becomes an opportunity as well. So usually a lot of organizations and businesses, we learn from a crisis. Right, next question. Could you explain a little bit more about how to use the PDCA model in BCM? Thanks. So, okay, actually, the PDCA, plan, do, check, act, it is what you have to do for BCM. All right, so you have to plan. All right, you have to plan how you're going to do it. But before that, you need to know your business very well. You need to know, okay, are you a very risky business? What is your risk appetite? Do you go for all the risky projects, right? And then how big is your business? Are your operational functions very complex? So you need to understand the scope, all right? Then from there, we move to the next part, which is develop a plan. So D is develop, yeah? So develop. So the areas of develop the plan, you need to identify, okay, which are our key activities, our critical activities, our functions, all right? If sometimes there's only one, sometimes it can be more. You can't say my manufacturing only is important. Don't tell me your sales is not important as well. So it can be a few. So you identify that, you do a business impact analysis. Business impact analysis will actually tell you, all right, if let's say your manufacturing is down by how many days, right? It's not functioning. What is the impact on others, the sales, your financials, and so forth. So from there, you know which are your key area that you need to protect. Okay. Then with that, you come up with a plan. So you want to make sure your manufacturing will never be down. Like I showed you the example, right? Even Toyota, they have to stop because they didn't get a chip. So what can they do? Maybe it's time for them, don't rely on from the supplier from where they got it, if they were waiting for China. Can they get another supplier locally who can give them the chip? So perhaps they should have more than one. Or can they also set up their own sort of subsidiary who manufacture the chips so that they have continuous supply? So what can they do? All right. So this is a plan. So they develop and they come up with a plan, a backup plan to make sure that business can continue. And then C is for checking. Now, once you come up with a plan, you have to make sure it works. We can't just come up and keep, why? Because you don't know when the disruption is going to take place. So you have to test it out. You have to test it out. Look, I'm sure some of the companies, they've done the simplest one is a fire drill, right? The bell will sound and everybody runs down and there's a place for all of you to gather, all right? And then sometimes we have this, what they call the fire brigadiers. They come and they actually teach you how to use the fire extinguishers and so forth. So this is more on the practice, teaching how in the event something happens, we do it. Another way is just discussion. All right, if something happened, this is what we do, this is what we don't, and so forth. Okay, so you have to make sure when you have a plan, you try to test it out. Okay, and it works. Then the next one is act. Act means you could have, if you had used the plan, let's say like you have used your backup plan and you realize, oh no, it was not as effective as you thought it would be, but never mind, you manage the crisis, thereafter upgrade it. I mean, change it, adapt it to the situation. If you have not used it, on year to year, you have to review it because things could have changed. When you thought about at that point of time, let's say we talk about the manufacturing, right? You don't want to rely on, let's say, the source for your raw materials from China. So you decided you're going to get it from the locals. But then when you got it from some local manufacturers nearby you, the quality was not very good. So you have to change. When you review every year, change your backup plan. What else can you do? Can you look at other countries now, other suppliers? Can you yourself develop the chip and so forth? So it's PDCA is a cycle, right? And then you develop again, and then you plan again, and you develop. So it's a cycle. Yeah, it's an ongoing cycle, and that is the key area in business continuity management. All right, I'm great. I'm glad that you understood it very well. Any more questions? I think we are running late by 20 minutes already.
I think there's no more questions from participants, Shantini.
All right, okay. If that's the case, thank you very much. I really enjoyed talking to all of you. I hope you have enjoyed the session as well. I'd like to share the references from, usually my references are from the Business Continuity Institute, as well as risk management books, because risk management is related to business continuity. It is actually a mitigating factor. You can actually refer to this. ISO 22301 is available actually. And all right, just to explain, we have TCS will be coming up with a workshop on business continuity and crisis management and managing risk and organizational resilience. This will be a half-day session, 4 half-day sessions, because if I'm going to run it for full day, it might be boring. But if I run it to half day, I think it'd be very interesting, and because especially topics like managing risk is quite challenging, but very, very relevant and helpful to your business. So we'll be running this. If you're interested, please get in touch with TCS. And if you would like to have the outline of the program as well, you can get in touch with them because they can share the outline of the program with you. And I think that for those who attended today's session, if you are going to sign up for this workshop, you will be getting some favorable discounts, some favorable pricing. That's what I heard. So please feel free to get in touch with the TCS team, right? And last but not least, before you leave, please, your feedback is very important to us, for me, also to improve my sessions in the future. So please scan and submit the evaluation. And I think alternatively, you can also fill up the form, which is in the chat. Yeah, I think my training assistant, Maradi, have shared in the chat group as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Maradi, there's someone who mentioned that they want the course outlines. Your good end have it, so maybe you can share with them, yeah?
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank
Okay.
you, Mon Kanika. We will contact to you.
Okay. So whoever want the course outlines for the business continuity as well as risk management, yes, please feel free to get back to Maradi of TCS. And when I prepared the outline, of course, some of it looks rather general outlines, but if I'm doing an in-house program, that means only for participants from your company, I would try to relate it very, very much to the needs of your business. Yeah, we will even evaluate, let's say, the risk that your business might face or the disruption that your business might face very thoroughly. Okay, thank you very much. I think I shall pass the floor to Maradi now. Thank you very much and wish you all the best. Take care and stay safe and have a great day ahead. Maradi, over to you.